Hello, this is Shannon McNamee, Assistant Editor of the Journal of Music, and this is the Journal of Music Weekly Podcast. On this week's episode, editor Toner Quinn talks to Dublin singer Daoirí Farrell about how he started singing in his 20s, his recent recordings, and about the singers and musicians who have influenced him. Here's the interview.
Daoirí, you've just finished a tour of Ireland, 7 nights around the country, finishing up in Galway in the Roisin Dove. Can you tell me how the tour went for you?
Yeah, I think it went fairly well now, I think it went really well. I really enjoyed it. Actually, it wasn't really like a tour at all because normally when people mention tour, flights and away from the country and, the kind of inconvenience of not being at home, which isn't really an inconvenience, but it's just great to be here. I felt like I was at home in each and every venue. There's something about people in Ireland, especially in the venues and the audiences and stuff, they're just an incredible way and means of making you feel at home. Do you know what I mean? Even though I am going technically at home, so I enjoyed it immensely. Yeah.
Do you learn something on a tour each time? Do you learn something about your audience? Do you learn something about your music? Do you learn something about yourself?
You do. I do go and play, and I might be playing a run in a song or something, and you would probably never notice this if I didn't say it. But then I can't wait to get home later on and practice this particular one that I'm thinking of, because I need to maybe change it. I just didn't like the sound of it last night. So I'm always kind of changing and swapping and changing.
Were there particular songs that you were trying out on this tour?
Yeah, there was a few songs that I was trying out that I probably would have only ever played with, like maybe the trio or a full band, you know what I mean? Just try them out and just see how they go. And some of them went really well, and I got a massive kind of applause for everything, kind of, let's say, in last night's gig. Everyone was really enjoying it, so I couldn't really put a foot wrong. And what happens with me is, I don't want to sound too arty or anything like that, because I'm not like that, but I try and get into it, and I really do. And last night I felt like, especially the second half, and 5 or 6 of the songs coming up to the end, I was just away in a different place, and it's an amazing feeling. I can't even really. I've been years trying to explain it to people, and then for years before that, I was embarrassed to say it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want people thinking, "Oh, who's he trying to fool?" Liam Weldon and Frank Hart and these guys, they used to say, "The song sings the singer, and not the other way around." And I really, really, really believe that. You know what I mean? It's. When I close my eyes and I'm gone, you could throw a bloody empty glass at me and I probably wouldn't feel it hitting me on the head. I could be gone to the far reaches of the earth and feeling incredibly sorry for myself and lonely, and have been on a tour for 5.5 or 6 weeks or something like that. And if somebody in the audience says to you, "Will you sing the Craig and White Hair?" It's an amazing feeling, man, because when I was an electrician, nobody ever came to me and said, "Hey, what about that socket you fit in the East Wall that day?" It's just. And what happens is then, what they'll say to me, "Will you sing the song?" And I'll go, "Yeah, I will." And then I just close my eyes and I'm in it. I'm in the field with the dogs and we're chasing the hare. It's making the hairs on my neck stand up now, even just talking about it. It's an incredible thing that I've taken from music, that I get every time I play music, that I've never gotten any other circumstances in my life or any other, let's say, hobbies or things that I do. You know what I mean? It's amazing. So, yeah.
Is it because you suddenly realise how far your music has travelled?
It's everything. Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. I for years I couldn't get my head around the fact that I was a musician, and I'm really speaking truth here. Probably shouldn't, but I couldn't for years I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe I got a gig one day. The very first gig I ever got, my dad always talks about it. I couldn't believe it. And my dad said, "Well, go on down and do the gig." And I went and I done the gig, and when I came home, I was counting the money. I think it was €70 or something. And my dad says, "What's that?" And I said, "That's the money for the gig." He says, "You didn't get paid." I says, "I did." He says, "Go away out of that." I says, "Yeah." He says, "Jesus Christ, isn't that absolutely brilliant?" He says, "That's a fair play to you." He said, "Now," he wasn't saying, "I can't believe they paid you." He was saying, "And you got paid." He was in as much at it as I was, and he always says that, I remember the first day you came home and you even got paid for the gig. It was great, it was great,
Can you tell me how you started singing?
I don't, how did I start singing? I mean, when I went to, let's say, I started kind of going to college and like music college at Coltis and Coltari Erin, and I was playing the banjo, and I'd be playing the banjo, and I remember getting Spanish classical guitar lessons at one stage, you know, and I started playing the banjo, and I never ever thought that I was going to sing, and I went to college in Ballyfermot. I know we're going to get onto that later on, but I was there, and I remember being in the class, and I picked up, there was like a bouzouki there. It was a foiled bouzouki that was owned by the college, and I started just plicking at it, and it was in G, D, A, D was the tuning of it, which is not unlike a banjo, you know, G, D, A, E. So the E string is dropped to a D, and I started kind of messing around, and I was like, oh, that kind of sounds a bit cool. Actually, you don't even have to put your fingers on the frets, and it kind of sounds already okay, you know. So I was trying to not ruin it by placing my fingers on the very, very limited amount of chords that I knew. And I don't know if he'll remember this now or not, but Paul McGrattan slipped into the classroom, who was the lecturer in the college, and he said to me, "You want to learn a song on that quick?" He says, "Because you're going to be singing in the cobblestones." Now, I was humming away to myself. Well, I was kind of accompanying myself singing a little bit. I think the song was Sullivan's John or something like this, you know, which was a song that was embedded in all of our heads. I mean, anybody who was into the trad music. And I kind of went, oh no, damn it, I might have been caught. So I went anyway, and I learned this, because you're in college, like, you might as well do your best, like, you know what I mean, while you're there.
What age were you then?
I was around 27 or 28. Because
so up until then you were playing the banjo?
I'll tell you what age I was. I was 26. Yeah, I was 26.
But up until then you were playing the banjo?
Yeah, the banjo, the mandolin. I played a bit on the guitar. I learned a few chords on the guitar. Like, I would sing in my room. I never really sang out, like, kind of gigs or that. I was embarrassed, like, you know what I mean? I'll tell you, the first time I ever sung into a microphone, I was 21, but I kind of stayed away from it after that because it was a complete disaster, like, you know. And I never really done it again. So I would play the banjo in sessions and stuff like this. And then I started singing. What was one of the first songs that I learned was probably Bogey's Bonnie Bell. You know what I mean?
So you were in your mid-20s when you started singing?
Yeah, definitely. I was in my mid-20s when I started singing.
And were your parents singers?
No, they weren't singers. No, they weren't even musicians, you know.
Then you started singing publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the response when you started singing publicly?
Yeah, good. Some nights it was good. Some nights it wasn't as good. I always remember a guy saying to me, "I'm going for a cigarette. Would you like to sing a song?" It was brilliant. That was a great line. He was genuine about it. Like, he wasn't joking or anything. He was like, "I'm going to have a cigarette." But I didn't get offended by that. And I thought this was brilliant. I was like, "Cool, I'm allowed to sing a song." So I sung a song and played it on the bouzouki.
And were you playing in sessions in Dublin in various pubs?
Yeah, I used to go around to sessions. So I was going to sessions since before me mid-20s. Like, do you know what I mean? I would have been going around to sessions since, like I said, I was probably 21. Actually, remember the first session I ever walked into. Like, there was one guy playing the fiddle. I can't remember his name. He was incredible. Wow, he was really, really brilliant. And there was a woman singing, and she sung Paddy's Green Shamrock Shore. Then they said, like, this is the thing about them. They said the next week, like, bring your instrument, like, you know, come in and bring your instrument. And I was saying, I was already thinking ahead, thinking, sure, I'd go out with the boys on a Saturday night, like, that's the lads, like, you know. And I did a couple of weeks after. It wasn't exactly the next week, but a few weeks later I went in. I had a mandolin at the time. Actually, didn't even have a banjo yet, and I brought it in. And I remember them all like, there might have been 15, 20 musicians there, and they were all way older than me, like, you know. And they said, let the kid play, let the young fella play a tune. And I started playing a tune on the mandolin. I can tell you what tune it was. It was Tyler Jack Walsh, right, which is a doodle 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 doodle. I started playing it and I completely messed it up. And just as I was trying to get back into it, I couldn't really get back in. The fiddle player just started playing it along with me. And then that was it. Like, from that very moment, I was part of the session. So I'd go every Saturday, and I'd go in every Saturday that I could. And I remembered that kind of, it wasn't an embarrassment, but I remembered that, making that mistake in the tune. And then I started practicing. Like, then I really started practicing. So I'd sit at home and I'd do 2 or 3 hours on the mandolin. And I have to say, and I don't pat myself on the back that often because, you know, we're Irish and we don't do that, but I was getting seriously good on the banjo and the mandolin. And of course I was an electrician, so I had money to buy these instruments, so it was dangerous, you know. So
you were working as an electrician and then playing in sessions?
I'd bring the mandolin into work with me, and I would go out to the Opel Corsa with the roof racks and the ladders and everything and the conduit benders on, and I'd sit in the car, and I had these manky dirty kind of Snickers dungarees on, and I used to just unclip them and pull them down like a clean t-shirt because I didn't want to damage the back of the instrument, and I'd just sit there in the car playing, and the boys would be sitting in the back off the site and they'd be slagging the Jesus out of me, saying, oh, look at George Formby and all, he used to call me. Didn't have a clue, like, you know. But I just take it on the chin like I always do with the slagging. I'm well able to, you know, I'd have been well able to give it at the time.
But you're from Crumlin, and was there... How did you get into traditional music in the first place? Like, as a teenager in Crumlin?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, me dad used to listen to it, and Tony Beattie. So me dad and Tony Beattie, you know, me dad's pal, they grew up and kind of started rambling around Ireland. They'd be cycling everywhere, I suppose, and back in their day, you know. And so they would go to see Christy Moore, let's say, playing in Lisdown-Varna and stuff. So, you know, you might buy an LP, come home, and my dad he wasn't big into his music, but he had stuff there. The Botti Band was definitely there. I remember listening to them and thinking, right, but there's something else in there, and it's not guitar. The bouzouki kind of thing started happening all the way back then, and listening to these songs and tunes. Gay McKeown always said to me, it's like when you're learning an instrument, you know. He said it a few times to me years ago when I used to play a few sessions with him. He used to say, 50% of it is playing, but 50% of it is listening, and that's the part that people do forget about. And he did say that to me more than once, and it took me a long time to kind of figure out what he was talking about. But man, it hit me like a bloody freight train when I knew exactly what he was talking about.
And when did you fully understand what he was talking about?
When I kind of got into college, and I went to college, so I kind of wouldn't see those guys because I'd be in college, like, you know what I mean? So I'd be doing me things with my college mates. Then it would come back into my mind. It's mad the things you keep in your brain and the things that you discard, you know.
But you studied in Ballyfermot, and then you studied in Dundalk, and you studied in Limerick.
Yeah.
What impact did all that study have on your music?
I went into the college, and man, oh man, was I, the very first day, I was in over my head. Wow, I knew I was, and I was like...
This was in Dundalk Institute of Technology.
And I'm talking about the very first day that I went into class. It was notation, and, you know... and the teacher said, open the book on page 198 and go to the bar line number 98. And I put my hand up and I said, what's a bar? And she just went like that. And just to tell the people at home that are listening, what she did was she put her hands over her face and went and started shaking her head, going, oh no, like, you know. And she was just like, she pulled me up at the end of the class and said, you're going to have to do a serious amount to catch up. She says, because I'm not slowing down, do you understand? And that was the first time. But this was the first time that music was really serious for me, and it was my first kick up in the arse to say, you know, you need to pull your weight here. There was plenty more after that, but that was the first one, you know.
What was your reaction to that?
I used to get this pain in my neck when I was in school, because, you know, there was certain, like, let's say mathematics and skill didn't make sense to me, right, or whatever, you know. It was not just me, it was a group of us, like, you know. And I used to get this kind of a worry, anxiety pain in my neck. Now, it wasn't that bad, Jesus, like, I still have my hair and still the same colour as it was back then and everything, but so it didn't stress me out that much. But do you know that feeling? I think you'll understand that feeling, and that's the kind of feeling I got. But you know what? I was a grown up, and I said to myself, do you know, like, I'm after getting through my electrical apprenticeship, and I was a foreman on a building site and everything, and sure, if I was able to do all that, sure, should be really easy, you know. So I just went and started studying, and I mean, my God, man, I put some amount of studying in it, and that was how I met all of me really, really close and really good friends up there in Dundalk, because the second or third day they came out and were saying to me, do you need a hand with that? Because that's actually really easy, and I can show you an easy way of doing that, you know. You see, you have to remember they were in since first and second year, so they were streets and streets ahead of me, you know, even with their musicality. But it was when I got there, I mean, I really had to put the head down and start bursting into it, you know.
So you got quite serious about singing then in your late 20s, and you're in Dundalk. But you sing quite a few Liam Weldon songs. Mm-hmm. And as I understand it, his singing has had a big influence on you.
Oh, massive, like, yeah, he was
Can you tell us about Liam Weldon?
Yeah, sure. So he was from Dublin, and he moved out to Ballyfermot, and he was a song collector. So he collected a few songs, and so what happened was when I was in college in Dundalk, I met Fintan Valley. Dr. Fintan Valley was there, and Fintan got me his stuff, and I had to listen to it, and then I listened to it again, and I was just blown away by his. Let's say, for instance, when he sung the Blue Tar Road, like about the travellers up in Ballyfair. It's so local, it's so close, he just, there was certain verses, there was certain lines when he was singing it, and it sounded like it was actually, he was welling up when he was singing the songs, and that's a really hard thing to put across to somebody, because other people, they do it and they feel it and everything, but they're concentrating so much on the song maybe that they don't do that. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm putting it out to you right or not, but he sounded to me like as if he was doing it, and it was the tone of his voice and the way he hit the notes, and it was the very live sound of the album, even though it was really kind of well produced for its time. I suppose it was just, his singing was, for me, just, I wanted to hear it more. I wanted to hear them songs more, and then after a couple of weeks I wanted to hear other songs that he sung more, and then I kind of got obsessed with just, I wonder what his interpretation of like The Well Below the Valley was or something.
So Liam Weldon was a big influence. Who else were the singers that when you really got into singing that
I was
interested in?
I was big on Christy Moore, was massive, like, for me. I used to go and see him all the time when I was younger, like, you know what I mean? I'd go and see him. And then kind of when I found out what the bouzouki was and stuff like this, and I was kind of on the hunt for one, I used to go and see Andy Irvine all the time, you know what I mean? Especially when I had one, and I'd go and see him and see what he does and what he sings is just incredible to sit and watch that, even, like, you know, all the way up, right up until now, like, it's still just amazing to sit and see that. Jimmy Crowley was big, Len Graham was big for me.
You mentioned Christy Moore there and various other singers, but you, for one of your first recordings, not for Trueborn Irishman, but you did get to work with Donal Lunny.
Yeah.
And he produced some of your music. How did that come about that you started to work with Donal Lunny?
So I went from Dundalk, I went into Limerick, and I wanted to do a master's, you know, in music performance, and I started going to the college there. And you got to pick 5 of your all-time, like, kind of, you know, the guys who you would love to just meet, talk to, have lectures from, and, you know, you're on your instrument, which was bouzouki, accompaniment of songs on the bouzouki, right? So the first ones that I put down was, you know, Andy Irvine and Donal Lunny, and, you know, I wanted to see Jimmy Crowley and Cyril O'Donoghue, and who was actually there anyway. It was cool. It was great. Alec Finn, these guys, you know, there's so many of them that I wrote down. I was actually turning the page over and was writing on the back. So the first one that I got was Donal Lunny, and Lunny came in, and he sat down and he says to me, you know, what do you want to do? And I says, I've got this song, I says, called The Valley of Knockanur that I got off a fella, I says, and I was just kind of trying to put the bouzouki around. I says, but I says to him, like, you have this thing that you do where you kind of, he does this thing where he gift wraps the songs with his music. It's absolutely wonderful what he does.
How does he do that?
He has a special gift, he does. I'm telling you now, he does. Like, he hears things that I would never be able to hear. But then when he points it out to you, you kind of go, wow, I can hear it so much now. It's like a punch in the face, like, do you know what I mean? But I would never have been able to hear that. And he does this thing, and he's done it with so many records and albums, like, I mean, that when he was into college, the first question I wanted to ask him was, I probably should have put it like this: how do you gift wrap a song? Can you show me how to do that? And he was kind of saying, well, yeah, like, I mean, what have you got so far? That's what he said to me, you know. So I says, yeah, well, I've kind of got this. I said, I'd imagine that's an E minor to start off, so there you go. And then it goes to D, and then C. And the next thing, all of a sudden, I knew I was into the second verse, and he was tipping away on the bouzouki behind me over there in the other corner, and got to the end of the song. And he says to me, geez, that was brilliant. Will you do another one? Do another song. So I played another song, and he played along. And it just, like, it sounded like me, but it just sounded so much better. And I was shaking because, like, my hero was in the room and he was playing along with me.
Was it just the two of you?
Yeah, just the two of us. Sorry, there was another guy there. Colin Botts was there, but it was my turn. So there was 2 bouzouki players.
But you subsequently got to record Bogey's Bonnie Bell with Donal Lunny. And of course, that he had recorded that with Christy Moore on Live in Dublin in 1979.
Years before. Beautiful.
And that you
That's
would have
where-
listened to that
That
recording.
was it, yeah.
So, having the opportunity to record that song with Lunny, that must have been quite meaningful for you.
Oh man, it was amazing. Like, it really was, you know. So I so badly wanted Donald to, and I don't want to offend anyone, but I so badly wanted Donald to be a part of the Valley of Knockanure. And those songs that were on True Born Irishman, I didn't have the songs picked for that album yet, by the way, when I met him there. He was busy with his stuff. It wasn't the time. It just wasn't the time. There was a lot of things were kind of in the way, and we were still talking to each other and stuff about it. Anyway, the album ended up getting recorded and it was released, and it was a huge success.
But after True Born Irishman, within a year then you won 2 BBC Radio 2 Folk Awards. What impact did that have on you?
It was amazing. It just gave me double the drive that I had already had now, you know. And I started working with a team of people actually, and honing in on the solo career.
There's a picture of you in the Journal of Music from when you won the 2 BBC Radio 2 Folk Awards, and you just seem so ecstatic.
I was delighted because I knew how much work I'd put into it. I'm actually welling up here now thinking about it. Like, I know how much work I put into it. I put so much hard work into it. Like, I was on stage and I was looking out at the audience, and I knew loads of people there because I got to meet them over the year before and the year before that. And I remember looking, and I remember thinking about that day when I didn't know what a bar line was when I was in college. I remember that day, and I was kind of going, Christ almighty, this is mad. What am I going to say next? I genuinely didn't know what to say because it was the last thing I was expecting was for me to win. But then when I got it, it kind of, it fixes your sight, it aligns everything, and it makes it straight. And you go, yeah, of course. Like, you know, yeah, confidence is, again, it's another chapter. Like, you know, to have confidence. And I think I got an awful lot of confidence when I got them two folk awards, and I started saying, hey, maybe people really do want to hear me singing, you know. And so I stepped up another notch, maybe on the ladder, I don't know, and started tipping away and playing music. And you know something? Then I had the confidence to actually say to Donald Lunny, hey man, this is something I've always wanted to do. I didn't straight away say to him, will you record a full album with me and produce it? But I said to him, I want to put out an EP with 2 tracks on it. And I want to put one from the very old album to kind of freshen it up again. And I want to put out maybe one from the new album, because there's no point in putting one out, just one track. And I didn't think that was going to have the effect that it had either. We went into the studio for a half day. I went in at about 1 o'clock that day, and I think we were finished at 4. We went in and we sat down in front of the 2 microphones. He was there where you are, and I'm here, and we played the 2 songs, and that was it. It was just like being back in college again. I done what I was doing, but he, like I said, he's probably going to kill me for saying this, where I feel like he kind of gift wrapped it. And even with him just being in the room, gave me piles more confidence. I was saying like a lark that day, I really did. And that's what the album is. That's what you hear.
But then he produced your second album, your second full album, which was A Lifetime of Happiness.
He
produced the entire album.
He did, yeah.
And what were you trying to do with that album?
I went and listened to a load of different albums, and I was just trying to make it as perfect as I could. And I wanted it to be about my voice. So it taken me a while to kind of figure out what did I want to do, and I wanted the album to be about my voice. And I wanted the music to be good on it as well. And I knew that Donald had a special kind of a connection with singers and stuff, because I had heard Liam Weldon's album and I'd heard Frank Hart's album. Let's say, for instance, those albums, right? And they were so simple, like, but they probably couldn't be recreated again. Do you know what I mean? And I wanted to kind of do something like that. And I said this to him in my kitchen one day. He came over for coffee to my house, and he says, yeah. And he just, like, when he came over that day, he had the bouzouki. It was as easy as that. And he just took it out and he says, what kind of songs do you want to do? And I says, well, I want to do this one. And you know, this. And he was saying, yeah. And then he said, I'll come around again another day. I didn't spend too long there that day. And he came around another day then. And he said, I hope you don't mind me and kind of intrude. He said, but I'm not writing down a couple of songs. And one of them was in the Connerys, you know.
It sounds like he brings a real focus to an album when he was producing. And he's produced so many albums at this stage.
Incredible focus, like, you know. It really does, like. And, like, I'm talking about this album. I haven't even talked about anybody else who helped me with this album. There was piles and piles of people, but I wanted to do this with Donald. And I just wanted I wanted the vocal to stand out, and I think I got exactly what I wanted. I really do think that I got. I remember saying to me man and dad one night, if God came and struck me down now, I'd be happy with my life because I was getting that album out, like, you know what I mean. And
The second one, A Lifetime of Happiness.
yeah.
And why did you call it A Lifetime of Happiness?
There's a stupid story, and then there's, you know, I'll tell you the truth, right? I used to play music with this fella called Roger, right? He had an old album that he recorded in a day. He used to sell it at the gigs and stuff. He'd completely exaggerate like how brilliant the album was, but he'd come in with a different kind of a thing every day, and I'd be cracking up laughing, so I wouldn't be able to sing the songs. But one of his belters was we're selling A Lifetime of Happiness today for, like, you know, it's whatever, $10 or $15 or euros, whatever it was. Like, he used to say, like, you know, selling A Lifetime of Happiness, and people would come up to find out what this kind of Lifetime of Happiness. He'd whip out the CD, he'd say it's a CD, and so they'd rather come that far, and they'd be laughing, and they'd go, yeah, okay. So you had all these kind of brilliant angles, and, you know, I was always learning from these guys. Like, they were just so, their stage presence was so good, and so Rogers was really, really stand out. He's like, so I had the name picked before the album was recorded, you know. When I started recording it, it was like I was thinking about it more and more, and I was thinking, you know, it really is, and this is gonna sound like real arty again, but I got that feeling like as if it was my all-time dream to just record that album and be there with him and Manus in Donegal recording.
Manus
like,
Lunny.
Yeah, that's why I call it Lifetime of Happiness, because everything about it was happy, like, you know what I mean. And then I used a picture of me niece Shifra on the front of it, because, like, she's a great little singer, and she's a brilliant whistle player and that. And she's always reading books, and she's always telling me, no, that's the wrong key. I sing this song in this key, and I take the cap off and put it somewhere else. And like, I just would love to wish people coming up in whatever they wanted to do in life, because I've done loads and loads of different things in life now at this stage. I just love to wish them a lifetime of happiness, and just, you know, if you're doing something and you don't like it, change. And if you want to be a musician, do it, like, or if you want to be an electrician, or if you think you might want to be a bloody rocket scientist or whatever, it's go and do it. Like, nothing is impossible, and take it from me, it isn't, like, you know. And that all this stuff is in that title.
Daoirí Farrell, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Journal of Music podcast. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or you can follow us on SoundCloud. This episode was presented by Toner Quinn and produced by Shannon McNamee. Thank you to Flirt FM at the National University of Ireland, Galway, where these podcasts are recorded. And for more on the Journal of Music, visit journalofmusic.com.